we bring you the very latest on Jim Harbaugh. And it seems like this story is an every single day story with Jimmy. Jim Harbaugh, as you know, is interviewing for the Los Angeles Chargers job. Did so yesterday. The Chargers continue their process. He continues his. And as we also reported on the show, we didn't expect anything to happen quickly. And maybe now we know why. Jim Harbaugh in Michigan continued to negotiate a contract extension for Harbaugh that would make him the highest paid coach in college football, with one caveat. Jim Harbaugh is demanding that the University of Michigan give him, quote unquote, immunity from punishment from the NCAA for sanctions that are assuredly coming, as the NCAA has already let everybody know that punishment's happening. The University of Michigan has been notified of level 1 and level 2 violations on the part of Jim Harbaugh and the football program. There is an ongoing sign-stealing investigation going on of the Michigan football program. There is an ongoing investigation involving the FBI and the Michigan football program. Penalties are coming. And if you believe what the NCAA and pretty much what everybody else is saying, Jim Harbaugh is looking at between an 8 and 12 game suspension for this coming season on charges he has admitted to. That's the part of this that I think a lot of Michigan fans don't want to talk about. Jim Harbaugh took a 3-game rip to start this past season as atonement for his COVID-era recruiting violations. But, Jake, does that mean that the University of Michigan should include immunity in their contract extension for Jim Harbaugh?
Well, I'm not even sure that Michigan can truly provide him immunity. I'm not sure that that's even something that Michigan can offer Jim. And I think it's a difficult spot for Michigan to be in, because obviously this guy just won you a national championship and, is really successful for you all of a sudden. And now, he's put you in a position where you kind of have to choose, hey, do we want to move on from this guy that's been successful for us and won a national championship? Or do we want to continue to try to find the middle between what he wants and what we want? And is finding that middle still, healthy for our institution, considering the NCAA penalties? So it's a difficult situation. Should they provide him immunity? I mean, I really think that depends who you ask. I mean, I don't know who you're going to go out and get, to fill the job. Obviously, it's a good job. Obviously, there'd be a lot of people or candidates who'd be interested in the job. So, it's not like you would have a tough time filling it. But I just think if you're the guy that says, hey, we're not going to give Jim what he wants, and because of that, he's going to the NFL with the Chargers, let's say, and then you don't do a great job of backfilling that, that's probably not going to be a great look for you. So I think it's a difficult position for Michigan to be in, but I do think it's pretty rich that Jim is asking for this. I think it's, it takes a lot of cojones, if you will, to ask for immunity after you did all this. And so my only question for Michigan fan is, how can you sit there and be like, yeah, this guy didn't do that? Because I know an innocent guy would ask for this, right? A guy who had nothing to do with any type of violations in the offseason and during the season would never ask for immunity from NCAA discipline. So that's why I say, if you're a Michigan fan, and really if you're a Jim Harbaugh supporter, I understand that you like the guy. I just think he's putting Michigan in an impossible situation. He's not out for Michigan, the school. He's out for Jim Harbaugh, the head coach. And that's just as simple as it is for both sides.
Yeah, I don't know how this ends positively for Michigan, because what this means, and I know everybody's been up in arms about the word immunity for the last 12 hours since these reports came out, but I think what immunity means is he wants to make sure he's going to get paid no matter what. He wants to make sure that he will not get terminated no matter what. Like Jim Harbaugh wants a fully guaranteed no-cut contract from the University of Michigan, and he wants to be insulated from his actions. And I think that is a very precarious perch for the University of Michigan to operate on, because I think we've heard, and sources have told us, that the staff at Michigan is growing ever irritable with Jim Harbaugh in the football department. And then you lop on top of that Juwan Howard and Michigan basketball and the issues he's had. I think there is some frustration inside the walls at Michigan with the athletic department. And now Jim Harbaugh wants to be held blameless for what are very clear, serious NCAA violations. And I think there are people inside that academia at Michigan who don't want anything to do with that. And I got to tell you, I agree with that. I wonder how the NCAA would view this as well, because a guy I talk to regularly about college football made a very good point. If Michigan holds Jim Harbaugh harmless, does the NCAA double down on its penalties to Michigan? And man, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think if you are the NCAA and you have a situation where the University of Michigan has essentially told Jim Harbaugh, oh, you've done nothing wrong here, sir. We're not going to penalize you. We're going to pay you. And in our eyes, you're not going to be suspended. You've done nothing wrong. Oh, man, I think the NCAA will take more scholarships. We'll limit more recruiting visits. I think if you are Michigan, you're avoiding major penalties if Jim Harbaugh takes a Charger job. If that job, as we are reporting, has been offered to, and he has not yet taken it, if Harbaugh takes the Charger job, I believe that Michigan is going to avoid significantly heavier penalties without Jim Harbaugh as their head coach. And I think they would be wise to hire Sharon Moore. I think it's the only way you keep any recruits that you have, because as we've talked about, you go look at the NFL draft entries in the portal at Michigan, it is an avalanche of Jim Harbaugh guys that are in the portal and are headed to the NFL draft. Things are changing in Ann Arbor. If you're Michigan, I think you are asking for significant trouble if you give this guy a no-cut guaranteed contract.
Absolutely. And I think that point about Sharon Moore is a good one. I wonder how, the NCAA would view Sharon Moore. Is it a thing where if it's like, hey, if Harbaugh's gone, then his staff isn't going to, wear the punishment? I'm just asking if that's, if we think that's how, the NCAA would view that, or is it a thing where the NCAA is like, no, you were his assistant head coach. Like, you were well aware, we're still levying the discipline against the program. I don't know how they look at it, but I just think from Michigan's point of view, if I'm out here looking at the landscape, like, okay, option A is keep Jim on a no-cut contract. Option B would to let Jim go to the NFL, and then to your point, hire Sharon Moore as the head coach and keep most of the staff and hopefully keep most of our recruits.
And I also think Minter would go with Jim Harbaugh to Los Angeles as his defensive coordinator. So I think Sharon Moore would have a chance to augment that staff with some of his guys. But Sharon Moore's a no-brainer. I mean, he is a no-brainer. He's a guy that led this squad. He's a guy that's well-respected in the locker room. Like, I don't know that you could have a better choice than Sharon Moore.
No, I think the only question in terms of Sharon Moore for Michigan is just how it affects the penalty. I mean, again, if Jim leaves and then let's say everybody leaves with him and it's just kind of a clean house, restart the computer type thing with the program.
Yeah.
Then I think your discipline's pretty light. I think the NCAA is not going to be like, oh yeah, well, hey, the chancellor knew about sign stealer guy, or the chancellor knew what Jim was doing in the dark
sign
period.
Stealer guy.
Right? Like, I don't think the NCAA is going to be like, yeah, hey, everybody's gone. We're still going to do like, you may get a light penalty at that point. But that's why I say that's what's tough about, the Sharon Moore situation is that, yeah, he's totally capable and he's a great fit for the position, probably the best fit for the position. But how does that impact, you moving forward? And by the way, if the NCAA said, hey, okay, if Jim leaves and Minter leaves and Sharon Moore is your new head coach and he retains, let's say, half of that current staff and then replaces, the other half, then we'll give you X for discipline, and that discipline will pan out over a year.
I think that's a great point.
Is Michigan okay with that? That's what I'm saying. You're looking at option A, option B, option, 2.0B, and then C is just restart the entire program.
And again, I think the biggest question is, how does this penalty go up or down based on Jim Harbaugh or not Jim Harbaugh? Because honestly, I think that is realistic. I think there is absolute disrespect being felt, like the Committee on Infractions. And if you don't know the story, sourcing and really the punishment and the statement by the Committee on Infractions confirms Jim Harbaugh in no way, shape, or form committed to the investigation, cooperated with it. And then when he did sit for questioning, they felt like he was being dishonest and evasive, which is the level 1 violation that he is charged with. And again, everybody was saying, well, he's already been punished. He hasn't been punished for that. They just got the notice of allegations on that remember, it was essentially described as a plea deal with Jim Harbaugh and the Committee on Infractions. And we were told this past summer that they were taking nothing less than a 6-game suspension at the Committee on Infractions.
Mm-hmm.
And they pled it down to 4 games. The Committee on Infractions laughed at that and said, we'll handle this next summer. And then Jim Harbaugh agreed to suspend himself for 3 games to mitigate the punishment. So he's admitted to those level 1 and level 2 violations during the COVID dark period. So that's just one that he's admitted to. And I go back to sign stealer guy, who Connor Stallions is back on Instagram.
Sign stealer guy.
Yeah,
Well,
not hard to
now
find
that
either.
Everything's passed over. I wonder if he's going to be on the Chargers.
Not hard to find either. Not hard to find on Instagram.
I want the best people.
Would you be surprised if
Nope.
if Jimmy?
He's quote unquote an analyst.
Yeah, we'll see. But you remember that during the sign stealer guy stuff, Michigan, when it was notified of the penalty against Jim Harbaugh from the Big Ten, Michigan said, this is unfair. We're going to court. Michigan fans said, this is unfair. Go to court.
Do you know what that's like these days?
The NCAA has to rule. And then remember what happened on the show. Our unbelievable sources told us, we had it first, and it was confirmed by everybody, including Pete Thamel, that the NCAA, the Big Ten, and Michigan had all been talking. And the NCAA has all the evidence, and they were providing the Big Ten with evidence, who was then providing it to Michigan. And even still, you went to court, filed for a temporary restraining order with a judge who, again, played football at Michigan, is a Michigan law alum, and now is on the bench in Michigan. You were going to court. You were going to fight this suspension. This injustice will not stand. It will not stand.
Stay hard.
Until it did when you withdrew the temporary restraining order 2 hours before the hearing.
Oh.
Well, hey, Monty, why do you think they did that? Well, listen, as the guy that, what did Big Daddy Magic say today? The big guy with the big gun?
Big Daddy Magic, the heavyset one with the big gun, with the sweet tongue.
What did the heavyset one with the big guns tell you? I don't know why I went there. But the point is, the NCAA dropped a ton of new evidence on the Big Ten, who gave it to Michigan, who promptly withdrew their notice for a temporary restraining order. They're admitting that, and again, on the record, here we are, what is it, January 16th, fully 3 months after the allegations became public, Michigan has never, not one time, denied the allegations of sign stealing. Fired Connor Stallions for it. Fired staff for it. Have never denied it.
Never.
So if we know all of that, and then there's the Matt Weiss FBI investigation
That nobody knows anything about, in my opinion.
I again ask, and Michigan fans seems to always find their way into the comments. And listen, I don't check the parole logs in Detroit, but apparently all the Michigan fans get out right along.
You know.
Whatever.
Right.
Because they're all corrections officers and public servants.
Right.
You know. I would like to apologize to absolutely no one. But Michigan, the degenerate Michigan fan always tends to find their way into the comment section like, bro, look, you're the rotund one with the big guns. That doesn't mean you have sources. Dude, you might have a sweet tongue, but you don't have sources. Yeah.
Big Daddy Magic, the heavyset one with the big gun, with the sweet tongue.
You know what I'm saying? And Michigan fan always comes in here and they're like, yeah, trust me, bro. Hey, man, who are your sources? Trust me, bro. That's
Big
who
Daddy Magic
is my source. And it's just hysterical to me that you can't have you can't have an honest conversation about Jim Harbaugh with Michigan fan. And the question I would like to answered. Why are you fighting for this guy so much? He's not going. My guess, based on the people I speak to, he's getting at least an 8-game rip for this, and they'll give him relief because he served 3 games at the beginning of last year. I think he gets 8 games minimum to start this season. And that's minimum. He will lose scholarships. He will lose recruiting visits on campus. He will lose recruiting visits off campus. He will lose the ability to have kids at football games. He will, and again, probably the biggest thing is he will lose scholarships. He will probably face at least half a dozen scholarship reduction. And I'm saying that it's probably going to be a minimum of 3 years of probation, and each year you lose 2 scholarships. And that's if we're being kind.
This is the list for 2 level 2 violations at Florida State. Just want to point this out.
Why do this?
Right? I just want to point this out. 2 years.
I would like to apologize on behalf of Two Holes for him bringing this up, because Twitter, honest to God, I do believe the fire department was called because Twitter was on fire when I referenced Michigan fans sweating over the Florida State violations.
2 years of probation, a 2-year show cause order, a restriction from off-campus recruiting during fall 2023.
So that's 1 year.
A 3-year disassociation from the booster, a 1-year disassociation from the collective, a $5,000 fine plus 1% of the football budget, a 5% reduction in football scholarships over the 2-year probation period, a reduction in official paid visits in the football program in the 23-24 academic year. Like a reduction in recruiting communications.
I was also told the other thing that they can reduce is staff, like G8 grad assistants, and this is for a booster collective NIL violation. The FBI wasn't involved in that one. Right?
During the meeting, the booster encouraged the prospect to enroll at Florida State and offered him an NIL opportunity with the collective worth approximately $15,000 a month during his first year at school. This is what I mean, man. I'm just saying.
Wait. And don't forget the show cause they strapped on the coach.
Yeah,
who's
dude.
Still employed. He took, a 2-game suspension or a 3-game suspension, and they dropped a show cause on him. And he still works there.
Including a suspension from the next 3 regular season games, a 2-week restriction on recruiting communication, and required attendance at an NCAA regional rules seminar.
Good luck. And so
just saying.
I think that Michigan is in real trouble no matter what. But if I am Michigan, I'm not fighting for this cat. I am not fighting for this cat. I am not. I will not. If you are a Michigan man, you deserve better than this. And I continue to say that. All the faux Michigan fans who are just now coming on, oh, go blue. Look at my natty t-shirt, bro.
So you better check yourself.
That's cool. And because there's a lot of that, I think. There is a lot of that. So what do you guys think? What do you think will happen here on Giving Tuesday on the Monty Show? Let's get that going. Sign up, trydaytrading.com/Monty. Sign up for their 30-day trial membership. No obligation at the end of it. You pay $10, which is a charitable donation. They're going to give that to their charity of choice for January. You'll get their entire coaching package. So you get high-level coaching, access to their proprietary software, and you are day trading immediately in simulators. And they're teaching you how to do it. Hey, here's how you use the indicators. You get the entire program for 30 days. Everybody who joins between now and 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern, you'll be entered to win a $100 Amazon gift card today, because we're going to give it away at 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern. And all you have to do is take a screenshot you signed up, tag Jake on Twitter or Instagram, SLC Jake. You sign up for Tri-Day Trading. We'll put you in the pool. If you're a member of the show, you will get 10-to-1 entries, such as in like Charlie Sinclair, who became a member of the members only contest.
Let's go, baby.
And if you are a members only member, you get 25-1 entries in every contest.
Let's go.
So hook it up. Yahoo reporting Harbaugh is still in LA today. That may be true. But I can tell you that my guess is you will not hear anything. I think Thursday is if you don't hear something by close of business Thursday, I don't think he's the Chargers head coach.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. You don't hire Don Yee. Don Yee is Jim Harbaugh's NFL agent.
Yeah.
Him and a guy named Jimmy Sexton are the two most powerful coaching agents in all of football. You do not hire Don Yee if you're not going to take an NFL job, because Don does not work for free. And my guess is that Jim is, and I will say the same thing that I've been told repeatedly. I was told it again yesterday. It's simply a formatics episode at this point. Jim Harbaugh had an interview yesterday with the Chargers that lasted 9 hours. They did not talk football. They talked about Justin Herbert, and they talked about structure. I was able to confirm one of the things that Jim Harbaugh wants is complete control of the offensive roster. He wants control, which essentially means final say on every offensive player. He values quarterbacks, offensive line, and skill positions, as every offensive guru does. And I think that's critically important. I think Jim wants control of his staff because he wants to bring Minter with him from Michigan. And I think he would like input on the general manager. I don't think that he wants to be the general manager. I think he wants input on who that GM is going to be. And I, again, will say I think it's incredibly awkward you're hiring a head coach before your GM.
Mm-hmm.
Because at least give it the visual aid that Jim Harbaugh doesn't run the whole damn thing. Because if you hire the dad bod god before your GM, Khaki Boy is going to run the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the players are going to say. And that's exactly what happened in San Francisco. And again, I simply point out that ended in a disaster. And a certain person on this show yesterday, who's not me, and I don't know who else that would be, a certain person on this show yesterday tried to make the argument that Jim Harbaugh was not successful in the NFL.
I know. He went to 1 Super Bowl, 2 NFC championships.
Three NFC championships.
Okay, 3 NFC championships. Great. He's the pinnacle of success. What'd that get you?
Not a Super Bowl title. And Jim did not. And again, the reason that I think Jim is dangerous, and what I say about Jim Harbaugh every time we talk about him, it's not what he does while he's there, because he's going to grind his face off and his players, and they're going to hate him by year 3. But they'll play hard for him. And when he leaves, he will just throw a lighter over the shoulder like he's at Tyreek Hill's house. Okay. And that was at least a
no reset.
There's not even a laugh.
Nope.
Not a giggle.
Nope.
Anyway, he's going to burn that thing to the ground before he leaves. And he has done that. You look at what he's doing at Michigan. At least he won a natty there. But he's going to leave that thing in shambles. You look what he did in San Francisco. Left that thing in shambles. That's who he is. And you just understand it. Just understand it.
So when I'm talking about what's success, my opinion is, it's not a fact. My opinion is success is not, hey, we did everything except the only thing we're playing for, and then we left the franchise, and it's really not quite ever been the same since Kyle Shanahan showed up. And then Kyle Shanahan turned it around, and now we're here today. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I saw all your comments. I don't know what I'm talking about. I lose all credibility. I'm terrible. This show sucks. Like, I saw it all. And that's fine. You guys can say
this
all
show
that.
sucks.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can say all that, but the reality is there's no getting away from it. The only thing that makes his BS worth it is a Super Bowl.
Listen, I think Jim Harbaugh's a hell of a head coach. I think Jimmy is a guy. He's just he's that guy that's constantly in conflict with himself. That's what it is.
Let me ask you this, Charger fan. What happens if they hire Jim Harbaugh and everything's amazing, right? He gets everything he wants. He's super happy. Everything's kosher. And then 3 years down the road, You are not able to win the AFC, and Herbert leaves your organization along with Harbaugh. Then what will we say? Okay, that's the negative side. The positive side would be you sign him, everything's great. You go win a Super Bowl. He's the hero you definitely don't deserve, but the one you got. Everything's great.
Yeah.
So how much of a gamble you want to take on, dude? I understand it from Charger fans' perspective. What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? You're talking about the Spanos family, bro.
You know what you have to lose? Justin Herbert.
Wow.
And I think it is very difficult to find a quarterback the caliber of Justin Herbert.
Mm-hmm.
And I lovingly call Justin Hey Bear the sex machine because he's everything you want in Los Angeles. Big, tall, strapping abs, blonde hair, and he's got a turbocharger for an arm. Like the guy just is everything you want. And if you look at what happened in San Francisco, he alienated Alex Smith so that he could insert Colin Kaepernick, which I think was probably the right move. It just was handled poorly. And Colin, I think, just wasn't ready at the time. If Alex Smith is your quarterback, the 49ers win the Super Bowl because he's making that throw to Crab on the goal line.
Mm-hmm.
But he wasn't. And Jim Harbaugh had no oversight there. That was his decision and his alone. And he's asking for that exact same privilege in Los Angeles. So let's see what happens. Let's get your comments in here on the Monty Show. Hero 75, can the NCAA put a multi-year death penalty on a coach? They don't do death penalties per se, but I mean, the essentially what they would do if Jim Harbaugh stayed at Michigan, I think, again, I've heard that he would get an 8-game suspension is likely. He would have a 5-year show cause. So when he leaves Michigan, the clock would start ticking on that. You would also have a situation where you would have significant scholarship reductions over multiple seasons. You would have, again, recruiting write-downs, visits on campus limited, coaching staff limitations, off-season program limitations, everything they can do to restrict your ability to grow and develop your talent and win games. And that's why I just ask, why is Michigan fighting so hard for this? And not even just to bring the guy back. You want to make him the highest paid coach in the history of the Big Ten and currently in college football. You want to pay Jim Harbaugh more than you are paying Kirby Smart.
But is that the prerequisite to even start a conversation with Jim based on the penalty they're getting?
Oh, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. I would not be surprised by that at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I would not. Sean Rollins, who told an odd story in the members only group today. Sean Rollins came out to his vehicle this morning to go to work, and there was lipstick smeared all over the window.
Sean, what have you been doing, sir?
What's her name, Sean? Just come clean now. Come clean now, man. What's her name?
Big Daddy Magic.
Right? Come clean now. You might as well just Sean, just own it. We all make mistakes, right? I mean, listen, you broke her heart. What did you think she was just going to walk away? I have no idea if Sean is married and has kids. I hope, and if
This is your beloved.
I'm just saying. Let's get the comment section going with Blue Raz. Your demands are my wishes right here on the Monty Show. Blue Raz it is. Buckshot, BuckedUp.com, the official energy provider of the Monty Show. Well, that was on your lips, wasn't
I was
it?
ready, dude.
You were teasing people.
Yeah.
If you're ready, I'm ready. Cheers, my friends. Oh, yeah. I love it. It's smooth. It tastes good. It goes down easy. I love Blue Raz. I'm a watermelon fan as well, but I'm on a Blue Raz run right now. Not only do I have 2 cases in my fridge, I have another case in my car.
That's right, T.
It's the stuff of legends. And what, if you don't know Buckshot, here's what it is. It is essentially a headache cure. It is a focus cure. It is one of those things that amounts to a bunch of brain food with naturally sourced caffeine. And I hear this all the time. There's no difference in caffeine, bro. There is. Green tea leaf extract. That's what's in here. And I also hear a lot, Well, Monty, how do you know what's in those things? You can't read the label. It's too damn small. Sure I can. You want to read the label? Let's read the label, bro. I'm here for it. Right? There it is right there. You get 1 shot, 2 ounces. And look at that. Natural caffeine from green tea leaf extract. But you also get tryptophan. You also get alpha size alpha GPC, which is all brain food. That's all this is. Vitamin B12. If you're not taking B12 every day, you're not living life right. Magnesium. Every man needs magnesium. Riboflavin. It's all brain food, my friends. And if you look at that, it's a powerful package. And what this does is it gives you a mental lift. Note what I didn't say. Sugar. Note what I didn't say. 8,000 milligrams of caffeine. There's no spike, right? There's no chemicals. There's no fake stuff. It's great ingredients, elite ingredients that make an elite product. Does exactly what it says it's going to do. You got that meeting. You got a long drive home. Maybe the weather's bad. Maybe your side piece smeared lipstick all over your windows and you need some patience. Pound of buckshot, blue raz, according to the expert, right? So I don't know if that happened or not. The point is, hit the buckshot, get 6 of them free right now in the description, right here on our YouTube channel, The Monty Show. If you're watching live on Twitter, hello to you. Get into our YouTube channel and get the 6 free buckshots from BuckedUp. If you're listening on Spotify, what's up with you? Appreciate you listening to the show. Get to our YouTube channel, The Monty Show. Hit subscribe, hit the bell, and then get your free buckshots from BuckedUp.com, the official energy provider of the Monty program. Maury Alvarez, buckshot is Monty's performance-enhancing drug. Oh, that's not even in question. That is not even in question, dude. Absolutely it is. No doubt about it.
I've never taken steroids.
Ever.
Lidocaine and B12.
Is what I'm saying. Sean Rollins has a sense of humor, thankfully. You know. Adam Monks, what's up, my guy? What's going on in the Jeezy? Adam Monks from St. George. Yum, let's go.
Yummy,
Exactly
yummy.
right. Yummy. Keaton Critchlow. Jake sifted through all that.
Yeah,
Yes, he
I did, bro. I did.
I sifted through all
I
that.
read all of them. There was probably 40 of them. I read them all. I see you guys hating. I
Damn
got
right.
you.
Damn right. Doc Rob says pounding something. Hey now.
I wasn't going to say anything about that, but you know.
Hey, now.
I think I've hit it every
I
time.
think I've hit it every time. OG Gary, if you can't spell his name, then you lose credibility.
Excuse me.
Gobert.
You lose all credibility, not just credibility.
I think Tanner Plummer put that video in the group or something. I misspelled Rudy Gobert one time. And fans were like, you can't even spell his name, bro. You lose all credibility. How's he looking in that Jazz uniform? Oh, that's right. He got traded just like we said.
And
he
he's
would.
still on the Dennis Lindsey deal.
Steve Stepanik, since Notre Dame is an independent football and all other sports are in the ACC, can the Big 12 get other basketball teams from the Big 10 and the SEC to join the Big 12?
Notre Dame, our mother.
I don't know that any are related, but I would not be looking for, no, a lot of that. Boston Mapes, how were the 4 coaches in San Francisco prior to Jim and the 2 before Kyle Shanahan? But his last year was a trash fire and may have contributed to Willis retiring early. Oh, there's no doubt. You look, Jim Tomsulo took over for Jim Harbaugh, and it was a disaster. That locker room, Jim Harbaugh's last 18 months as coach in San Francisco, I was there. I can tell you firsthand, that team did not enjoy reporting for work every day. And you look at the talent that they had on that team, the personalities, that Alex Smith decision was not talked about with captains. It was not communicated correctly. It just was not well handled. Not well handled at all. And I think it was a real problem. OG Gary, yes, you do lose credibility because you can't spell his name correctly. Okay, that's fine. Ferris Khan, 3 NFC championship games and a Super Bowl is huge accomplishment. Okay, first of all, was Jim Harbaugh a successful head coach in San Francisco?
Yeah, by NFL standards, he's successful. Sure.
And again, I want to make this clear, and I don't mean to keep telling you who I am. I covered him in San Francisco at the great KGO KMBR 680, the sports leader. he won games. He was hated in that locker room. I say that he was not successful because he alienated players. And that was a good group of players. Like when you look at the linebackers they have, when you look at the offensive line there, you look at Alex Smith there and the respect that he had, you had a group of dudes that should have won the Super Bowl. But because of their coach, and this is the thing that I always try to point out to Michigan Homer, and I believe Ferris Khan is, he had a far better team than New Orleans. Not close. They were a better team than New Orleans. And they were a better team that I'm trying to think of if I go back, like Baltimore, who they played in the Super Bowl. They were a better team than the Baltimore Ravens. They were better. And yet they didn't win that game because he made bad decisions with personnel. He alienated leadership, and those guys were not excited to show up at 6 a.m. And one of the routine things you hear is that the meetings were short. Practices were unenjoyable. You had a lot of guys that were not engaged in practice. And I think ultimately, if you look at Jim's resume, sure, you go to NFC championship games, you go to the Super Bowl, win or lose, I think you're successful. But you look at what's going on with Nick Sirianni in Philadelphia. It's the exact same thing. And why is it the exact same thing? He's a weird dude. So is Jim Harbaugh. He alienates certain players. So does Jim Harbaugh. So what happened? Jim Harbaugh, the thing melts down because he doesn't get along with his GM. He doesn't get along with ownership. It's my way or the highway. And you hadn't won anything. The situations are remarkably similar. Remarkably similar. And my question is, if you bring Jim Harbaugh to the Chargers, has he changed? Because based on what we saw at Michigan, he still treats players the same way. And I say this all the time as well, you can get a bunch of college players to bow down at your altar. NFL guys don't do altars when they make far more money than you, and they can go to the owner and get you fired. And the Spanoses are notorious for being players' owners. So if Jim Harbaugh goes in there and he wants to run his meetings with a jackhammer instead of a feather, because you look at the teams that treat their guys well, they win. There are very few exceptions. Bill Belichick is one of the exceptions. Bill Belichick's never going to put his arms around you and say, "It's okay, buddy. Next season we'll make that throw."
Yeah, we're not making any changes.
He's the exception. But why was he an exception? Because he had a GOAT at quarterback and leadership was unquestioned. That's the situation with Jim Harbaugh. Do you have leaders in Los Angeles that can carry that locker room? And I'm telling you, I don't think you do.
So that's why I struggle. That's why I struggle. Yes. By win-loss record, he's very successful. By, NFC championships and accolades in NFL terms, yes, he's very successful. Yes, and this is what I would say. This is my opinion. Michigan fan, do you feel better? Yes, your Jesus Christ is successful.
You got cool T-shirts and hats.
He's successful. Awesome. Feel better. But 3 years from now, if he flames, to your point, right? Because I think it's a great point about the Spanos family, totally have a reputation. If he flames, is that really success?
Was the national championship that you earned, because you earned it on the field, was that worth what's about to fall on top of you in Ann Arbor? That's going to be the question. And the real litmus test will be how many of you cowards won't show up to the big house to watch football games on a team that has no chance of winning. Because I believe that's what's coming. They're going to limit you. They're going to limit you. There's just no way about it. They're going to limit you. Steve, I don't know what your
Stay hard
over this is. I just asked the Big 12 conference in an email if they could legally get teams from the SEC and the Big 10.
Great.
Why would you email the Big 12? And why would you email them that question? Hey man, listen, bro. Hey, Brett, I'm just curious. Do you think they're going to give you inside information? Yeah. Well, it's funny, Steve, from the Monty program. It's funny you asked, dude. We've been talking to Michigan about coming over to the Big 12, and Alabama's coming too. Do you really? A, why do you care? Why is this even a relevant thing? I don't get it.
I don't really understand what you're saying.
I don't get it. I don't. Big Blue Horses. He left when things began to slide, burned every bridge he had, and the league could caught into his outdated scheme. That's the question that I think everybody has about Jim Harbaugh. The way he won at Michigan, you cannot win that way in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot. And again, I'll go back to Nick Sirianni in Philadelphia. Terrible coaching, terrible offensive schematics, terrible play calling. Mrs. Monty and I were sitting on the couch watching the game last night, and we're sitting there watching Tampa just come for Jalen Hurts. No change in schematics, no change in play calling, continuing to run into zero blitzes, which I don't understand, continuing to throw Hail Marys when it's remarkable how bad the play calling and schematics in Philadelphia were the last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And it came to a head last night because Tampa was not surprised by anything they did. And really, you didn't need to be surprised because you were not fooled. There was no scheme or disguise. I think that's a big, big deal. Wasikowski, how are you? Lions' chance of going to the Super Bowl after the Bucs winning last night. I would say their chance got no better or no worse. And Lions fan, I saw you on my Twitter feed last night saying that your road got much easier. Did you watch their defense? Because Philadelphia, in my opinion, has a better offense than you have a defense. Now, your coaching and offensive execution's better. And I think right now Jared Goff is a more able quarterback than Jalen Hurts is. But if you think that Baker Mayfield's just going to lay down for you, and his offensive line is significantly better than any offensive line you've probably seen in the last month, because the offensive line the Rams ran out there was not good. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line, I think, has done a very good job for Baker Mayfield. And I think Baker Mayfield has avoided those terrible mistakes. Now, can he continue to do that? We'll see. But he's got wide receivers that can actually operate. And the funny thing about the Bucs and the Lions is I think that as good as the Lions are, I think their defense is overvalued. They're great up front. I don't love the way they cover. I don't love their schemes in the secondary. I really don't. And I'm curious to see how all of this plays out, because if you are not going to tackle, and imagine the poor tackling that we saw with Puka Nacua. And I love Puka, but he should not have had any of those big plays. That was just poor execution defensively on the outside. You're not going to be able to do that against the Bucs, because their whole game is execution and getting outside the hash marks to make you make tackles. That's their whole game. Big, fast wide receivers that are better than you in the air. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this lines up. But I saw this all over Twitter last night, like people tweeting at me, telling me how much I hate Harbaugh and the Lions. I don't hate Dan Campbell. I actually have a lot of respect for what they've done.
Nice story.
Yeah.
I just don't think you should sell the Bucs short. I mean, I think that, when you're a team that's got Baker a quarterback, you don't have, a Lambo at quarterback. You don't have prime Jalen Hurts or prime Patty or what. Like, you got to make plays outside. It's what I said yesterday. Like, it's a make or miss league, in the sense that your guy's either going to beat his man or not, and that's going to decide the game. As long as Baker doesn't turn it over, the Bucs have a pretty good shot. But again, you guys are playing well too, so I just wouldn't sell them short.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Sean Rollins says, hit the like button. Yes, please do. We are at 1,100 views and only 55 likes. Please hit the like button if you have not. That really helps the channel grow. Victor Roca, SC, Trojans. I think you got very lucky.
Victor's the way.
I think you got very lucky that the Bears did not fire the Flus. Is it a good idea to sign Jim as a Raider coach? I mean, I think it's more acceptable because I think Mark Davis is a guy that likes the marquee. I think he's a guy who, again, I just go back to John Gruden. He hired John Gruden. And I think that's a Mark Davis type hire. Jim Harbaugh is a Mark Davis type hire. I would be surprised if Jim Harbaugh was interviewing with multiple teams.
Are we clear on that?
I think he's got an offer from the Chargers, and I think it is simply a matter of waiting out. Because I don't necessarily, I don't think he's dead set on leaving Michigan. But he's not going to go back without certain assurances. And today, if you didn't see it, Dan Wetzel at Yahoo Sports is reporting that Jim Harbaugh is essentially asking for immunity, and he doesn't want to be terminated or lose money to NCAA sanctions that are coming as a result of his actions. And Michigan, by some accounts, has been reticent to give him that. And I wouldn't disagree with that because if he's your head coach, you're going to be crippled. So I think Jim is playing that side of the fence, and I think he is playing the Spanos side of the fence. And if he gets, I think it is simply a matter of will they give him roster control and will they pay him $12 million? And if they do that, I think he'll be the next head coach of the Chargers. I do not see him interviewing for 5 different jobs.
Yeah.
I just don't. That's not why you hire Don Yee. You hire Don Yee because you targeted the Charger job. That's why you hired Don Yee. So I think that much is very clear, and it'll be very interesting to see. It'll be very interesting to see how this Harbaugh thing plays out. I think it is one of the more fascinating situations. Adam Monks, that's why when you compare the $2, the way they lost compared to how bad they played last night. Well, I think that's good. I would fire Nick Sirianni. I would. You cannot look at the fundamental breakdowns in coaching and coaching effectiveness that we saw the last since probably 6 weeks, because the Eagles haven't been the same for some time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And I think it is a failure of leadership from the coaching staff to the locker room. And you just look at the lack of ingenuity and creativity in that offense last night. I don't know what else you need to see. It's going to be tough to replace him. But the fact of the matter is there are guys out there that are more qualified than Nick Sirianni. And his name is Bill Belichick. And if you can get Bill Belichick to be your head coach, is there even a discussion to be had? If Jim Harbaugh said, you know what, Don, go ahead and call the Eagles. And Jim Harbaugh said he wants to be your head coach, okay, you're probably making that move on Sirianni. But until you get a better candidate to be your head coach, I don't know that you can fire Sirianni. You should.
Yeah, you weren't really the same team since week 12. After week 12, the 49er loss, 42-19, you weren't the same team.
I would agree with that.
One win in your last, what is this, 6 games against the Giants. You just weren't the same team.
I don't know how you describe this kind of fall off. I think it's a couple of things. I've seen all night. Oh, the Eagles ran out of gas. They didn't run out of gas. Fuck, man. It's January 16th. Who's got gas in the tank? Who? There's injuries all over the NFL this time of year. I think you look at what they ran out of. They ran out of want to. They ran out of belief. That's what they ran. They're the non-believers in Sirianni in that locker room, right? And I think that's what you ran out of.
Unbelievers.
And it's why you're not in the division round. And you have to look at the Packers. The Packers are going to go and get their ass kicked in San Francisco. Have to believe it. You look at the Bucs and the Lions. I mean, there's a reason the Lions are not favored by a touchdown at home. And you look at the other games, Baltimore is favored by 9. San Francisco is favored by 10. Why are the two teams on Sunday not favored by a touchdown because there's not belief in them.